This is why you're probably wrong about what key Sweet Child of Mine is in. Hey guys, the Bald Guitarist here. Today I want to talk about 3 different songs that people very frequently call the wrong keys, and why that's important as a lead guitar player. First of all, why is it important that we have the right key? It's extremely important if you're a lead guitar player to have the right key, because you need to know 1, what scale shape are we going to play, and 2, what our home root note is that we should keep going back to. As a rhythm guitar player, knowing what key a song is in is only important if someone's calling out the numbers to you, like a 1, 5, 6, 4 in the key of G, for example. But if you're just reading a chord chart, you really don't need to know what key it's in. So it's not that important if you're just playing chords. But as soon as we start doing any improvising or anything like that, where you're not playing a scripted song, then you need to know what key it's in. Let's start off with one of the most commonly misidentified songs, Sweet Child of Mine. So this song is a very simple chord progression. It is just a D, C, G, D. Oftenly incorrectly said to be in the key of D. It's not in the key of D. The key of D has the notes D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and C sharp. So we know it's not in the key of D because there's a C chord, and the C chord has a C in it, not a C sharp.
So I can clearly not choose the key in front of me.
Something that's a little closer to the truth, but still not quite correct, is a lot of people say this song is in the key of G. Those notes would be G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp. While those notes fit this key, at the end of the day, the key that a song is in is determined by what chord the chord progression resolves to. So in my opinion, this chord progression does not feel done if you stop on a G chord. That doesn't feel done to me. That G feels like it needs to go ahead and go to the D chord. You might say, but wait, you just said it's not in the key of D, right? But it resolves to the D chord. What we have to do in this case, we have to find a key that is rooted in D, but has the same notes as G major. This is where knowing your modes comes into play. This is in the key of D Mixolydian. D Mixolydian is the 5th mode of G major, and oftentimes people incorrectly will interchange these as the same thing and say D Mixolydian and G major are the same. If you are speaking strictly from the included notes or the included chords, that's correct. D Mixolydian and G major are the same. However, if you're playing lead guitar, these are 2 very different things. Let me show you what it looks like if we solo over this chord progression and we think that it's in the key of G instead of the key of D Mixolydian. That means that I'm going to be using, probably as a guitar player, I'll probably use my pentatonic scale. The relative minor of G is going to be E minor, so that'd be this guy. Most of your go-to licks are going to be going between kind of the G note and the E note targeted in this scale. So let's see what that sounds like. Hear how a lot of these notes actually still sound good, right? Because it's the same notes. The key of G and the key of D Mixolydian have the same notes in them. So a lot of these notes still sound good. However, you can hear that by landing on that G over and over, it doesn't quite resolve. It doesn't quite sound correct. Versus, if I think of it in the key of D Mixolydian and I keep going back to that D note, it's going to sound a lot better. So you can hear how even though the first solo sounded okay, the second solo sounded awesome. Let's make it even simpler. Instead of making an awesome solo, let me just hold the note, either the D note or the G note, over the entire chord progression. See which one you think fits better. Let's recap. The G note in the G arpeggio, when you are soloing, does not quite fit. It's very close, but the emphasis is on slightly not the best note choices. Whereas if we think of this in the key of D Mixolydian, or you can just think of it as E minor pentatonic, but really emphasize your D notes, in that case, it really fits really well. And so that is why it's important to have the distinction between D Mixolydian and G major. Let's do a couple more. So this is Mary Jane's Last Dance. In this chord progression, we have the chords A minor, G, D, and A minor. So this song is often considered to be in the key of A minor. That is really close to correct because it obviously resolves to an A minor chord. It's very much done when we get to that A minor chord. However, it cannot be a true A minor because our D chord here has an F sharp note in it. And the key of A minor is just no sharp triplets. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Those are the notes in the key of A minor. So the fact that we have an F sharp in here means either we're in A minor with a modal substitution for one chord, or we can look at it as we're in the key of A Dorian. A Dorian is also a mode of the G major scale. Has the notes A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. And that F sharp fits our D major chord now. And so the difference in this doesn't come so much with the root note, but it does come out in our soloing if we want to play that cool F sharp note while we're playing our pentatonic. So watch this. I'm going to improvise 2 times. The first time I'm going to use straight up A minor pentatonic, and it's going to sound great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It does fit because the A minor pentatonic scale doesn't have an F note in it. It avoids the problem note with the key of A minor altogether. A minor versus A Dorian. That's actually one of the really cool things about pentatonic scales. So your pentatonic scales are kind of safe if you just know what chord it resolves to. Just play that pentatonic. So if you know that it resolves to a D major chord, you can play D major pentatonic. If you know it resolves to an A minor chord, you can play A minor pentatonic. And you don't really have to think any further than that. However, if you want to get some really cool notes and some really cool moments out of your soloing, you want to know as much information as you can about what mode it's in, because then add those notes to the pentatonic and you get some cool sounds. So here's Mary Jane's Last Dance. Pretty cool. So this time I'm going to play the same thing, but instead of just doing that, I'm going to add in this note. So it's the exact same scale. I'm just adding this F sharp note on the 7th fret of my B string to my pentatonic, and it's going to sound great. Watch this. So you can see It's basically, it's close. It's close to the same thing, but it's not quite. It's got that extra little bit of, it's got that extra little bit of spice, a little bit of flavor. And so it's really cool to know that and to add that. And that is why people that know a lot about their music theory and stuff can sometimes be a little bit pedantic and be like, oh, actually, it's in the key of A Dorian, not in the key of A minor. Because if you're just playing your pentatonic scale, it doesn't really matter if it's in A Dorian versus A minor. But if you want to add that really cool flavor, that extra little something, then you really need to know, are you in Dorian versus true minor? That will change how you approach your guitar solos. Sweet Home Alabama, there's something about the word sweet, is a very similar chord progression. However, I do think this one is a bit more ambiguous. This one can honestly lead either direction. We've got this. Roughly, that's what the riff is. We already know, because we've got a D, a C, a G. We already know it's not in the key of D, right? We could always throw that away. From our first song, we know that if it's got a C chord in it, it cannot be in the key of D. What chord does the chord progression resolve to? What is our home bass? So in this case, our home bass is a little ambiguous. I actually think it could go either way. I think I go to the D or to the G in this case. So there, you can hear that the D feels resolved. But honestly, in this song, I think the G feels just as resolved as the D. So this one's a little more ambiguous. So this one is why Sweet Home Alabama is kind of the song that everyone disagrees on. It could honestly go either way between G major and D Mixolydian. The people who say it's in D major, though, are absolutely wrong. You can take that to the bank. I just wanted to make this video today to kind of show you guys from like one perspective, from a rhythm guitar player or just a pentatonic, that's it perspective. It's kind of dumb to be pedantic to the point of, well, no, this is in D Mixolydian, not G major. Or no, this is in A Dorian, not A minor, right? Things like that can seem pedantic, but if you're trying to make your improvising better, you're trying to make your soloing as good as it can be, then these small differences add up and become very important and very cool when you're soloing. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, send it to your mom. I'll see you next time.